Welcome. So in this video, this is going to be aimed at my UK brothers and my European allies for the buy, borrow, die structure. Now, if you just simply try and copy the way the Americans do the strategy, it's not going to work. America have far greater system for wealth building, and overall the system over there doesn't necessarily punish success as much as it does in Europe and the UK. Now, I'm going to try my best not to go into some sort of political rant in this video, but when you see how difficult the strategy is to do in Europe and the UK, you will understand why the system is effectively designed in a way to just destroy generational wealth. Now, I have got some solutions. I have studied the European and UK strategies extensively over the past 18 months, and I was shocked at just the amount of landmines. Every strategy I would look at and attempt, there was always a problem. And I very much came to a very simple solution, and that's what we're going to talk about. So let me start off with the UK strategy. In the UK, you can do the first half of the strategy. You can do the buy and the borrow. So you can still have your taxable brokerage account. You can use margin. And yes, you can, even with a RageT margin account, you can withdraw that. Just make sure you have closed all your currencies on the platform. What I mean by that is if you have debt in the US dollar, debt in British pound and other currencies, make sure you settle all your currencies first before you withdraw. That's something that commonly gets missed by most people. But let's talk about the way the system seduces people to invest in the way they want you to invest. The governments will seduce people with the carrot. They dangle the carrot in front of people and say, look, what you should do is invest in your pension. What you should do is invest in your stocks and shares ISA, the UK. This is for the UK. Europe has equivalents of this. What I know about finance is it is pretty much the same globally. It's like driving a car, but different. Every car's different. That's the way I look at it. They just have different names, different terminologies, but it's all really the same thing. So in Europe, they have equivalents of these type of accounts. So in Sweden, it's an ISK, Italy is a PIR, France is a PEA, all these different accounts. They're the golden cages is what I like to call them. I'll start off with the stocks and shares ISA. So you'll see retail investors on platforms like TikTok and other social medias where they show their stocks and shares ISA. They fondle it, they admire it, they check it every single day, and they say, look, it's tax-free. And in my eyes, to me, it's illiquid in my eyes, right? I know it's not, okay, you can obviously sell it, but that's the problem. The problem is you must sell it. You must cut off you're killing the golden goose. It's a golden cage. They were put inside it, and it cannot build generational wealth. It's tax-free for the individual for their life, but it's not tax-free for if you were to pass it on to your heirs and your children. So people spend their entire life investing in like a stocks and shares ISA or a pension for it to all get liquidated and or taxed at the end. This is on purpose to destroy generational wealth, and you don't really understand the answer to this unless you discover the buy, borrow, die strategy. And that's it. This is what I'm teaching on this channel. So what is the solution? The solution is we're if you're looking at this strategy, you are so far past the sort of traditional surface level view of investing. You know, they say, oh, but do we buy low and sell high? And all these general things like compound growth and compound interest. Oh, look how much it's worth in 30 years. And you're already past that, right? We already get the point. The system is designed for the stock market to go up. That's just it. It's just a fact. It's physics. It's maths. It's money gets printed. Stocks will go up. Companies continue to innovate and grow, and we know that the ETFs are going to go up. So we've already established that. Now, if you're looking at this, you're moving way past that. It's like, okay, we're past that, and now we want to know, how do we keep it forever? How do we borrow against it? You must use a taxable brokerage to do this. And if you've got your stocks and shares ISAs, there's nothing necessarily wrong with it, but it's just it's a state-sponsored liquidity trap. You've been seduced, they've got you, you've invested all your effort and earnings into a tool where you cannot get the money back without selling it. And we do not want to destroy compound growth. So it's far superior from a generational wealth perspective to have it in a taxable brokerage. This is why the middle class die liquid poor. They fall for the trap of illiquid tax wrappers and things, yeah? On this channel, we are using the taxable brokerage, as I said many times, and it's all the same in Europe, but Europe is actually far more aggressive, and I actually very much have sympathy for the European system. The European ambitious people from Europe have got a lot of landmines to dodge, trying to achieve wealth, generational wealth. So ultimately, these tax wrappers, pensions, yeah, like what happens in the UK, someone could be in London earning six figures, still maybe find it hard with cost of living for them in such an expensive area. So what they do is they obviously use the pension. And what the trick is with the pension is you are playing by the government's rules, whereas you're getting tax benefits at the start. So this is how they fish you in. Look at all these tax benefits, salary sacrifice, and that goes into your pension, and your employer matches it, and the government matches it, and wow, this is amazing, this is free money, and it absolutely is at the start, but at the end, you're now going to be taxed in the highest bracket, which is taxes income. And who gets taxed the highest of anyone else in the world? It's income earners. That is the trap of the pension. Fragile finish line. Yes, the first 25% is tax-free in the UK, but after that, the rest of it are going to be taxed. And most importantly, you cannot borrow against a pension. You cannot borrow against any of these tax wrappers and accounts, whether it's Europe, whether it's UK, or even in America. It's the same. It's the same everywhere. The word taxable brokerage itself is a trap. It's the most tax efficient tool for wealth building than any of the other options, because we know not to sell it. We're building assets that we do not sell. This is a top 1% strategy. This is how generational wealth is built. So you need to understand this, and if you don't understand it, you're not building generational wealth, and you're not going to be in control of your own destiny. At least in the UK, you can do a SIP. You can at least choose your own investments. So if you're a high conviction investor, you have invested knowledge, you can at least choose your own path and choose your own ETF. That's a great benefit. But do you want to use all your free cash flow and invest it into that? It depends on your circumstances. It depends on your age, your situation in life. But if you're interested in buy or die, it's all about a taxable brokerage and being in charge of your own destiny. So let's look at the options, because what about all the different ways that people try and avoid all the different variations of taxes? And what you're going to find is you're going to find landmines everywhere. What often people say when it comes to avoiding inheritance tax is they say like RISAF planning is a strategy. So what people do is they say, well, the first 325,000 is tax-free, so why don't we just set up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 trust structures and throw all the money in each trust and have all these different trusts? I looked at the math. It's a waste of time. As far as putting all your wealth in those, how do you borrow against it? You can't. What does a lender want? They want to see a portfolio that is concentrated and it's all together. They don't want to see 10 different trusts, and you're creating more friction because you're the settler of the trust. How do you borrow against a discretionary trust? Yeah, it just complicates it. And yes, okay, you can put the assets in there, but it does still get taxed every 10 years. It's still going to result in capital gains tax. It's just not effective. Another strategy people use is gift. People in the UK call it buy, borrow, gift, die. Gifts are still subject often to taxes anyway, capital gains tax. Whatever way you try and spin it, there's a landmine waiting on you. I've ran through it and I exhausted it, and I said, okay, every way we try and spin it, there's taxes. The way I looked at it is, I would prefer, from my research, it's actually better for me to just keep it personal in the personal name. Some people might say, why don't we do a family investment company? Because if you set up a family investment company, a company doesn't die. Yeah? So therefore, why don't we just put the children as directors and the company lives on forever? This is what I thought, but absolutely not. Because if you try and operate as a company, you're creating more friction. In fact, think about this. You're setting up a company just to buy and hold stocks. Now you need to hire accountants, or even worse, do it yourself. Yeah, you've got confirmation statements to do every year. You've got tax returns to do every year. How do you pay yourself? You pay yourself in dividends, they get taxed. What if you just borrow a Lombard loan and pay yourself from the Lombard loan? You would think that works, but actually no, there's a landmine for that as well. It doesn't work, yeah. It works in the sense that you can do it, but you can't really pay yourself. Plus, what do you do? Even if you pay yourself a salary, you're still taxing yourself at the highest bracket. I said to myself, what's the point? There is no point. If someone has a genius way of the family investment company where you can pay yourself using the Lombard loans, I'd love to hear it, but there's just no way around it. Section 455, benefit in kind, disguising it as a business expense. HMRC will dismantle the structure, reclassify the funds as a dividend or salary. They will hit you with back taxes and massive penalties. HMRC treats the unpaid interest as personal employment income, forcing you to pay income tax and national insurance on that benefit yearly. Under Section 455, the Corporation Tax Act 2010, if not repaid within 9 months, okay, this is if you pay yourself a loan, the company will hit it with a mandatory 33.75% tax penalty. Structurally useless in my eyes. Waste of time. I would rather have my own personal account, taxable brokerage, where you can freely at least borrow for lifestyle without having to pay taxes. Far superior. Family investment company, it does have benefits for using it as a holding company, but you can't really get the money out of it. It's just friction. And to me, why would you want to do it? You want to file your own taxes just to hold stocks? Annual accounts? No. So what can the UK actually do? What if we use our personal account, personal brokerage, build up the assets over the next 20, 30, 40 years? Yes, there's debt on it. That's fine. Life insurance, whole of life policy, wipes out the debt, yeah? Here's one of the biggest mistakes in estate planning that people make. They just take the policy out and have it in their own name. That'll be smashed with 40% inheritance tax. What often people do is they put the trust in a policy. The life insurance policy, in a trust. Trusts is how they bypass it. Instant payout, bypasses probate, 7 to 14 days, smooth transition, wipes out the debt, the children have the portfolio, and the life insurance can pay off the debt, and the children can carry on the mission. So that's very important for people in the UK. I'm sorry for my European friends, doesn't work the same. In fact, I would argue that Europe is outright hostile towards trust structuring, and any way you try and spin this, they have a way to tax you. Very difficult in Europe, very difficult, this strategy, but I'll move on to that in just a little minute. Just look at the brutal taxes. Okay, just brutal. 20% capital gains tax hit on gifts marked to market, die within 7 years, it gets clawed back for another 40%. Inheritance tax, double taxation risk is massive structural flaw. That's on the gift, yeah? You have accountants on YouTube saying, yeah, it's called buy, borrow, gift, die in the UK. No. You're still getting taxed. France, Germany, and Spain, just the same, just in a different font. It's just the same. You can't avoid it. So what is the honest solution? Well, for the UK, yes, you can at least buy, borrow. The die part, potential life insurance and a trust, and really just accepting the tax. I'm sorry to break it to you. You think there was some secret structure. There isn't a secret structure. Out-compound it is the plan. Take control of your own destiny. Have your own portfolio that you're in charge of. Build it aggressively over your lifetime. And pay it. Pay the inheritance tax. Life insurance wipes out, can at least help with the rest of it. But this is honestly the final conclusion I arrived at. I just said, okay, we don't have the step up in basis that Americans do. Therefore, we can't avoid it. It is a shame, because this is why generational wealth is so difficult. Think about it. In 2 generations, 80% is wiped out. 40% on the first generation, 40% on the second generation. So the grandchildren have already lost 80% of the wealth is wiped out. This is why. This is on complete purpose, by the way, because they don't want dynasties. They don't want generational wealth. And people can have their opinion on that, political opinion on that, whatever. But we want to optimize it. Okay, there's the PPLI wrapper. I have made a video on this before on a whiteboard, and basically I dismantled it. It's full of fees. It's full of problems. It's a private placement life insurance policy. It's pretty much a wrapper, and it has massive fees on it. It's AUM fees on it. If you want to watch my video on that, you can, where I break it down. That was really aimed at Americans, but again, it's the same idea. You don't have any control on it whatsoever, but the fees just don't make it worthwhile. I've already done the spreadsheets on it. PPLI wrappers are a no. And for the problem that Europeans have a very difficult challenge in front of them. They cannot even do the buy borrow section. Okay, so flat out, the EU Consumer Credit Directive, any financial facility that allows a retail consumer to withdraw cash that results in a debit balance is classified strictly as a consumer credit agreement. So effectively they're saying, to protect the consumer, you can't just give them margin loans for lifestyle. It's a shame. So what alternate option is the actual European investor needs to grow the portfolio so at a point where you can approach a Swiss bank or a Lombard lender. And you can use the margin account to just grow the portfolio aggressively, high velocity. And you can eventually get to a point where, yeah, you can get to a Swiss bank, get Lombard loans, and you can go out that way. You have to win it on pure math. So you're not going to get the borrow for lifestyle anytime soon unless you have a high portfolio. So you can read all this for yourself. You probably might already be aware of it if you're European. So it's a lot more difficult. And as far again for the conclusion for Europe is, I could not see a way around the inheritance tax, the generational tax. Therefore, it's just a case of out compounding it, outgrowing it. I couldn't see, and also the system in Europe is just flat out hostile towards any way of trying to structure it. It really is just punishing success, and it's a shame. It is a shame for that. If you're in Europe, very difficult. A lot of landmines. It's not as easy as in America. Americans have a fantastic system for buy, borrow, die. So it's very important to do what you can, grow the portfolio. At least you are. The most important thing about this video is it's saving you from potentially years of stagnant capital, tied up capital, wrong location. The capital location is just as important as the allocation. You must ask yourself, is it a golden cage? Because retail investors, all the money's in a golden cage. That's something at least you can avoid. High velocity, high conviction investing. And eventually, if you're in Europe, you get to a point where you can get a Lombard loan provider. And you can obviously, there is another option. Sorry, I just glad I remembered. So what Europeans do is box spreads. That's the way around it. Now, if you're someone who's not really a sophisticated technical investor, that's just, again, it's still friction for you. It's effectively, I'm not going to go into great detail on it. It's options in a sense. You're putting a call option and a put option, a long and a short on the index. It is a sophisticated way you can borrow the money, and it's a strategy that's very very sophisticated. If you're comfortable with options, you can do box spreads, and that's your way of withdrawing the money for lifestyle. Yeah, if you're not comfortable with it, then obviously you don't do it. But if it's something you're interested in, if you really are determined, you can do box spreads. That's the European way of getting around it. And you will get cheaper rates than the standard margin rate, potentially. So it's definitely a very widely used strategy. So that's one option. What was I going to say before I said that? For Europe, it is you can't use trusts. Okay. The point being for Europe is you got to get high velocity and get it to a Lombard provider. Flat out hostile towards trusts. Trusts are legally void in Spain. Settler remains a direct owner. Zero asset protection. Zero tax mitigation. Structurally useless. It's a shit. It's just horrible. It's horrible. I just feel like Europe is just. It's just punishing the success, man, punishing ambition, and it annoys me. It does annoy me. I said I wasn't going to try to get too political, but Europe, it's just regulation after regulation, and they regulate technology they don't even invent. The big tech companies are just getting constantly hit with fines and lawsuits all the time, and it's very much a socialist mindset. And I have a strong feeling anyone that watches my content is clearly capitalist. They're not. It's very very rare. I don't think I'm going to have a socialist watching my content, because it's upsetting. It does annoy me. It infuriates me. But yeah, I'm sorry I couldn't come up with some magical secret strategy that you can avoid any sort of inheritance tax or anything like that. But important to avoid the golden cages. That's what is important. Will I make more videos on the Europe UK structure? Most of my audience are Americans, and the strategy is really aimed at Americans, as you can see why. And of course, if all else fails, you can move out of the Europe if you want, move out of the UK, you can go to Dubai. And in Dubai, you pay zero tax on everything. There's no inheritance tax, no capital gains tax, no income tax. Yeah, so that's why high net worth individuals are going there for obvious reasons, as you can see why. And yes, there you have it. So avoid the golden cages, take control of your own destiny, taxable brokerage, and good luck.